This is my next lesson in Thessalonica, and we're going to start with Revelation chapter 1 verse 10 and Revelation chapter 4 verses 1 and 2 and Revelation chapter 17 through Revelation chapter 17 verse 3. All of these indicate John is being shown another vision. This has nothing to do with the rapture of the church at all. Okay? John is seen on earth in Revelation chapter 10 verse 1 and again in Revelation chapter 10 verse 8. In Revelation 11 chapters 1 through 2, Revelation chapter 11 verses 1 through 2, this indicates that John is on earth again. John makes another appearance on earth in Revelation chapter 13 verse 1 and another appearance in Revelation chapter 17 verse 3. Now, if John is a representation of the rapture in chapter 4 verse 1, then that means that the Christians are going to go back and forth, earth to heaven, earth to heaven, earth and heaven. And we all know that's not true. So Revelation chapter 4 verse 1 does not represent the rapture of the church. It just doesn't. Okay. Are the 24 elders the church? Okay, certainly elders have white robes and crowns of gold. Revelation chapter 4 verse 4. In Revelation chapter 4 verse 6, it talks about living creatures similar to Ezekiel. Elders give glory to God at the same time creatures do. Elders are associated with creatures. This is according to Revelation chapter 5 verse 6. If the saints are the church, then the elders have to be something else. This is according to Revelation chapter 5 verses 8 through 9. The first seal had yet to be opened when John saw the elders. So the elders are not the church. Elders interact with John just as angels do. This is found again. Revelation chapter 5 verse 5. Revelation chapter 7 verse 13 through 17. Revelation chapter 17 verses 1 through 18. And if we go to Revelation chapter 19 verses 9 through 10, you'll see it again. Elders are distinguished from redeemed. Revelation chapter 14 verses 1 through 4. Revelation chapter 11 verse 18. Revelation chapter 19 verse 5. If elders are church and they are wearing white robes, then why aren't they resurrected? Revelation chapter 6 verses 9 through 11 shows this. Christians are wearing white robes and are living on earth. Revelation chapter 3 verse 18 shows as much. So could the 144,000 definitely be the church? You betcha. The Bible calls the 144,000 virgins. This is according to Revelation chapter 14 verses 4 through 5. But then they're saying that they are celibate. In other words, that they never have sex with anybody at all. Wrong. Okay? Being celibate can also mean being celibate from idolatry rather than being celibate sexually. Okay, so these people are not participating in idolatry. We can show you these examples, okay? Take a look at 2 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 2, 2 Kings chapter 19 verse 21, Jeremiah chapter 18 verses 13 through 17, Lamentations chapter 2 verse 13, Ezekiel chapter 23 verses 1 through 49, and Amos chapter 5 verse 2. Just because you don't participate in idol worship does not mean you don't have sex. It just means you don't participate in idolatry. The seal of the living God is the seal on the forehead of the 144,000. This again is found in Revelation chapter 14 verse 1. This is also found in Revelation chapter 7 verses 2 through 3 and Revelation chapter 9 verse 4. This seal is in contrast to the beast seal. The beast seal can be found in Revelation chapter 13 verses 1 through 18. Okay. No lie is found in the mouths of the 144,000. In other words, they do not believe in the lie of the beast. These 144,000 are slain for Jesus. This is found in Revelation chapter 6, verse 9. 144,000 is indicated in Revelation chapter 12, verse 11. The dragon makes war with the 144,000. This is in Revelation chapter 12, verse 17, and again in Revelation chapter 19, verse 10. The 144,000 hold the testimony in Jesus. Hold the testimony of Jesus. And so do Christians. So there is a good chance that the 144,000 is the church. Keep in mind that 12 is the number of completeness. This is found in Revelation chapter 12, verse 1, Revelation 21, verse 12, Revelation chapter 21, verse 21, Revelation chapter 21, verse 14, Revelation chapter 21, verses 19 through 20, and Revelation chapter 22, verse 2. The multiplication is just to show you how enumerated, or how innumerable, is the number of believers that will be on the earth. You can't count them all. No human can. God can, but you can't. The 7 churches are described in a manner that is similar to Israel. If you were to compare Exodus chapter 19, verse 6, and Revelation chapter 1, verse 6, you'll see a comparison. If you were to compare Numbers, the book of Numbers, chapter 25, verses 1 through 18, and compare that to Revelation chapter 2, verse 14, you'll see a comparison. If you will look at Numbers, the book of Numbers, chapter 31, verse 16, and compare that to Revelation chapter 2, verse 14, you'll see a comparison of the church to Israel. If you'll look at 1 Kings chapter 16, verse 31, and look at Revelation chapter 2, verse 20, you'll see a comparison between Israel and the 7 churches in Asia Minor. The 7 churches are given promises similar to Israel. Look at Genesis chapter 2, verse 9, and look at Revelation chapter 2, verse 7. The 7 churches will eat from the tree of life in the Garden of Eden. This tree is located near the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. You'll see this tree, the tree of life. You'll see it in Genesis chapter 3, verse 3. And God talks about the tree of life. You'll find that in Genesis chapter 3, verses 22, and Genesis chapter 3, verse 24. Then you are to compare Revelation chapter 2, verse 17 with Exodus chapter 16, verses 31 through 36. Again, compare Revelation chapter 2, verse 26 to Psalms chapter 2, verses 8 through 9. Compare Revelation chapter 3, verse 5 with Psalms chapter 69, verse 28. You'll see a big time comparison there too. Remember, John heard the 144,000, but saw an innumerable amount of people. This is found in Revelation chapter 7, verses 4, and Revelation chapter 7, verse 9. This is the same way as John heard about the lion, but saw the lamb. Revelation chapter 5, verses 5 through 6. Okay. And this concludes my lesson in Thessalonica for today. I will tell you more in the next video, so stay tuned.